Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. A message popped up right before the video ended. The intro video ended and said something about um, Facebook got deleted or some kind of connection problem. So, sorry, you guys on Facebook. If you watch this on the replay, I apologize. I don't know what happened there. But once again, I'm without Melanie. She is still in South Carolina with my daughter Morgan. I know a lot of you will always ask about her and what the situation is. We're hoping things are getting better. She has two doctor's appointments this coming week, and then hopefully I will be able to fly out there. Depending on the airlines and things that are going on, I want to fly out there and drive them, Melanie, Morgan, and Lily, the dog, all back here. And hopefully we can make that still happen. That's what the plan is right now. So thank you for your thoughts and prayers. This has been a very long, drawn out situation with her, and you just, I feel so useless. I wish it was something I can do, but this is just time, and we've got like some very great minds working on it, and they're trying to come up with an improved regimen. But with these players, a lot of times it is just time. That's not all you can do. So thank you, like I said, for you guys for your prayers and everything for Morgan, and hopefully she'll be home here in the next couple of weeks. So, and Melanie would be helping me. So again, forgive me for the herky jerkiness of it. It runs much smoother when she's here. So, well, back to introductions. My name is Mark McKellar. My wife and I own the Backyard Bird Center, a retail store here in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a wildlife biologist by education and training, and have been studying birds as my job and as my hobby for right at 40 years, a little over 40 years now. And we really appreciate you guys' support of the channel. This channel has grown tremendously. It just shows me how much you guys are, want, good, reliable information, because that's our goal, of course, is to provide good biological facts and information about our wild birds and the bird feeding. So this is our November wild bird update. We do one every month, kind of like what the status of birds are going on, and with a lot of questions. This is what, one of those sessions where we will, entertain a lot of questions. I know you guys have been chiming in. I know Andrew was telling me there's supposed to be snow, I think, Saturday night or this weekend, and Cincinnati. There's a chance we could see some flakes. And boy, the feeders have reacted, and they're definitely kicking in. So I am going to go through and do some welcomes, and then we'll get into the different topics that we're going to talk about tonight. Hi, Justin. Yes, welcome in. Let's see. Kevin Bolton, looking for welcome in. Thank you so much. Hi, Jim from Minneapolis. Jay and Carol up in Platte City, just above it, Platte County, just north of the Kansas City area. Yep, Andrew from Cincinnati. Kevin Bolton from Georgia. All right. Hi, Rick from North Carolina. Hi, Sandy from Kankakee, Illinois. Yeah. Yeah, the bird, I don't know if you're as dry as we are, but they just did the weather drought update, Matt, last night on the news. And yeah, we're back in severe drought again. We actually had a couple of little rains, but it didn't help very much. And so, yeah, we're very dry. The bird bath is extremely, my blink camera's catching like 350 captures a day at the bird bath. And that, and so much of it, like you said, is house sparrows and house finches, but catching a lot of the other guys in there too, which is wonderful. Hi, Carrie Beth. Yeah, good. I can love it. You guys have made friends in it, and get to say hi to everyone. Absolutely. All right. Hi, Lisa from Ontario. You had a good birding outing recently. No Juncos in Springfield yet. That's interesting. They were on the deck today. Their numbers have increased over the last week for sure here, so they're making their way down there. Lauren and Tyler here in St. Charles, Missouri, across the state over there from us. Yep. Hi, Lauren. All right. Hi, Ellie. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sending the prayers. Thank you, guys. Kansas City North, Teresa. How is Taylor on tonight? Haven't seen him chime in yet. Hi, Mark, everyone. Carol, Rhode Island, welcome in. Southeast Kentucky. Thank you, Jennifer, checking in. From Wapapella, Illinois. Hi, Josh. He stopped by the store not too long ago. If I'm over in Illinois. Hi, Justin. Thank you so much. Absolutely. The people have been joining the friends group, but the support group of the channel. I know it's grown. Andrew was our first member, and now I don't know, 5 or 6 people have joined this week. So it's wonderful. Thank you guys for the support. Really helps to keep the channel going, especially during these slow months. September and October, we're incredibly slow at the store, so we have to survive that. But now we're having our big, thank you, Sandy. Our big seed sale starts Saturday, goes through the next Saturday, and this is when we count on a big influx of cash to come in. People buying, pre-booking their seeds so they can pick it up all over the next till the end of January. Ask all the seed to be picked up by then, but they get the sales price now, and then they can buy 3 or 4 bags of whatever and ever, and we keep the sheets and we just mark them off every time they come in and pick the bags. It works really well. I feed wild birds in Louisiana, and they get a lot of. That's exactly right. They are definitely our friends. Birds, they're nature's working men, as I always say. Welcome in. Glad that you made it on live with us. Hi, Kathy from Indiana, a regular tuner in. Yes, Andrew's been a member for 14 months now. Yep. Thank you, Andrew, for your continued support. From Craig, Western Montana. Wow. Craig. I knew a guy named Craig who moved to Montana years ago. I was trying to make sure it wasn't him. Oh. All right. My bird bass have been really busy as well. Yeah, it really has. We are in a dry stretch right now. They're saying we could get some snowflakes this weekend. I'd much rather have rain. We needed rain. That snow just doesn't add up. All right. I was out birding today again locally. I'll post some pics. Thank you. Absolutely. Enjoy them always. Yeah. The bird bass, I'm telling you, we had a person in yesterday at the store, and she's moving back to Kansas City. And we were talking, she was talking about bird bass, and she said, are bird bass important? And all through the store, anybody that knows me, they kind of gave a laugh, and then I was walking up by the time she said that, and said, yeah, they call me Captain Water. And so we went through the discussion, and she said, well, that sounds like something good for the kids to get me for Christmas. And absolutely, it's so important. Mid-20s out there in Western North Carolina. Oh, right. Yep, I got to get mine plugged in. Mine's out, but I've been out all year round, but I don't run the cord and plug it in until probably tomorrow. Yep. Yep, and the ground throw and around the water. Hey, Denise from Washington State, a real regular participant in the programs. All right. Kearney, Clay County. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome in. All right. Brush Power Project's doing great. Yeah. I love hanging the and Carrie's the one that started this for me. For me, it was hanging the millet sprays from the low shrubs in the brush pile, and they just sit there and peck on it, and the whole thing's shaking with them and knocking it off. It's great. That's awesome. Yeah, native sparrows coming in. Here we go. That's going to be part of a topic tonight. Make some cheap trail cam on platform. Absolutely. You get a feeder out and a camera out there on the field in your bird bath, you'll realize how many visitors you're actually getting. Here, but the brush pile, absolutely. Thinking of an idea for you. What about one on research, banding, and that sort of stuff? We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Being that banded Canada Jay really thrilled me, and absolutely, we're great minds think alike. We're going to talk about banding a little bit tonight. I got a slide for you. All right. No, I take that back. We're not going to see that slide tonight, but it is going to be in Monday's program. we're gonna Monday Night program is going to be out about how long do birds live, and one of the things I'm going to talk about is banding in that, and how do we know the age of birds and how long they live, and then we're talking, and bird banding is going to be a part of that program Monday night. All right, hello, feathered friends. Welcome in, Anna D. Clean 3 bird. Yep, yep, absolutely. Get that water moving. 28 degrees, lots of wind. And yeah, we're birding Sunday afternoon at Smithville Lake, and supposed to be like 34, and the wind's supposed to be blowing. So we're going to have to be bundled up out there. But I'm really hoping that wind is going to bring in loons and grebes and some raptors and lots of ducks and things like it. Could be really good out there, and it keeps the boaters off the lake too, which is great because the Chiefs are not playing Sunday, so it would be loaded with boats. So hopefully it'll be cold enough that the birds will be there and the boats won't. So 1 or 2 snowflakes. Yeah, that's what I've heard too, Ellie. Juncos ever travel in mixed flocks? Absolutely. Yeah, it did. They're sparrows. People don't think Juncos are sparrows, but my article I wrote many years ago, whenever I wrote in that article, comments came out and said, he says that Juncos are sparrows. Is he crazy? Yeah, no, Juncos are sparrows. They just are uniquely colored sparrows. But yes, they are related, and there have been crossbreeds between white-throated sparrows and Juncos documented on a couple of occasions. So yeah, they what benefits one benefits the other. So they are usually hanging together in winter. All right, that's good. I think that's it. Yep. And now we are going to get into a little bit what's going on, and then we'll get to questions, a little bit, and then and toward the end, a lot of questions. So what's going on right now? Right now, well, I've always said if for Kansas City, and again, remember, we're here in the heart of the country. You guys north or south or east or west. Right now is the start of the bird feeder season, the birds feeding season for most people. I know a lot of you feed 365, and that's great. But for a lot of people, they wait till the weather cools off, and that's when we've all the last couple of months we've been on these live and the question and answer. We're talking about how slow the feeders are and how it's mainly house sparrows and house finches. Well, now the diversity's picked up. For the last week and a half for me, my feeders have been the busiest they've been in at least 2 months. And I had the red-breasted nuthatch hanging around, and the feeders have been busy. The Juncos have really picked up. And I think that's true for a lot of people, and that's what's happening is stress. And when a bird's feeding and he's looking for food, if the conditions are mild, they're not as panicked. They're not as neat. The food, their metabolism and everything keeps them from needing food as frequently, so they can take time to find natural food sources. But when those temperatures go down, and when snow and when ice and stress goes up, freezing and thawing, that's when bird feeders become much more favored to them because it's a reliable source of food. And remember, birds only get 15% of their daily diet from bird feeders. So your feeders are only part of the route that they're working. They're eating natural seeds, natural insects while they still have them. And they may go to your neighbor's bird feeders. They may go to around a route that they run. So, but right now it's picking back up. And as many of you have pointed out already, the water is so important. We are so dry that my bird bath, I'm telling you, it's constant. The Bluebirds have been on it. The Carolina Wrens have been on it. All the seed-eating birds, but as it attracts more than that. All birds need water. It's the key to life. So keeping those bird baths out and people say, well, why do you need to clean them, Mark? Well, good birds drink water from gutters. Well, yeah, but birds don't poop in gutters very much, and they poop in bird baths. Some birds are very bad for it. Not all, but some, like the mourning doves and especially starlings, things like that. You get in there, and if you want to clean it out to keep the health of the birds. So keep a shallow bird bath. And this one has a heater built into the bowl. And there, if you can see the orange cord running up on it, it's plugged into that bowl. It keeps that bowl open. And I'm going to have to plug mine in this weekend. I'll probably plug it in tomorrow or Saturday, and because we got freezing temperatures coming. So don't forget to clean up your bird baths, get them out, get them plugged in. And if you do have a de-icer, one that you just add to your existing bird bath. This is a brand new one on the left, and this is one that has been in water a lot. I mean, there's calcium, there's hard water stains, and there's calcium buildup on those. And so it's a good idea to, when you break it out this time of year, if you didn't do it at the end of last season, definitely soak that in a pretty strong vinegar and water mix and just let it sit for a good while in that, and then take a brush and scrub it and get some of that off of there. It'll work more efficiently, and it'll last a lot longer. So we recommend doing this every year. And I don't remember talking about it in the fall, and I should have, but this is a great picture, and I won't tell who that's from, but there's no way to prevent this. If the de-icers are going to be in water, they're going to get these calcium stains. They're going to build ups on them and stains. So just remember that you'll make that de-icer last longer if you keep it good and clean, and it'll work more efficiently in your bird bath. So don't forget to clean up your de-icers if that's the method you use to heat your bird bath. Those de-icers are guaranteed to 20 below zero, and that's so important. I mean, when bird baths, when the temperatures get down to single digits, especially and lower, even the teens, that those bird baths are, I've always tell you, it's difference between life and death for a lot of birds in winter. And the other thing a lot of people are doing now, if they don't keep them up all year long, is they're putting up roosting pockets. And these are not nesting structure. I guess a bird may nest in there, but not typically. It's too porous. And but the idea is for them is to have roosting sites for them for birds in the winter, and especially chickadees, especially Carolina wrens. House finches use these. There's several smaller species that do use them, and you put them around your garden. Like I said, I've always liked to put them up under my deck, up in where an angle beam is, or I can just stick them up there in places like that for them to get out of the weather, and this helps protect the birds more. So, and they're really inexpensive. So these are roosting pockets are just good things to add to help birds in the cold months to survive some of those cold winter nights. So that's those are the kind of things, bird feeding, getting your bird feeders cleaned up, getting your food supply fresh. Remember, you never leave bird seed in a feeder longer than a month, and you never leave bird feed in storage unrefrigerated for longer than 3 months. So I will get calls. I'm telling you, they're coming right now. People are calling saying, "Well, I have a bag of Niger I bought like 2 years ago. But it's been in my garage. Is it safe to feed?" Well, the answer there is really no. If that hasn't been refrigerated, even if your garage is dry, of course, and cooler, but 3 years or 2 years, or even a year, that seed is going to go bad. And humidity is the enemy, and it's so hard for us to tell if it's bad or not. Don't risk it. Just get fresh bird seed. Anything you bought 3 months ago, still you can get it out. They'll start eating it. They're eating pretty heavy right now. But if it's older than that, you owe it to your birds to get rid of that and get some fresh seed for them. So fresh seed, clean feeders, clean up your bird baths, and the season is kicking in. It's going to be interesting to see what you guys are saying, what all you got coming to yours. Like I said, one of the birds that I've had coming. Now I haven't seen him in 2 days. I'm really disappointed. But Drew saw him, and he lives just up the road from me, so I think my birds went to his feeders. But the red-breasted nuthatches, and they were calling for this to be an eruption year, as they call it. That I guess the pine seeds really failed this year up north, and so they're moving south and finding food. And then the red-breasted nuthatch, and I think I had 2 at one point, and they were going to my peanut feeder, they were going to my Nutrisaf feeder, they were going to my medium sunflower kernels, they were going to the bird bath. I got all kind of video of them, the bird bath. So they're so cool, they are so tiny, and they're fearless. I always tell a story. You can go out and, when you go out to refill your feeder, you can pick up the feeder and he'll come and land on it, or she, and then they'll catch you and start their little squeaky toy sounds. Great birds, love them to death. And this is going to be a good winter. So make sure you got, especially sunflower kernels and peanuts. That definitely is their favorites. They'll settle in on your feeders, hopefully. And another one that we're getting reports of, and slowly but surely, are the purple finches. Now, and I figured as long as we're talking about it tonight, this is a good time to go over the separation of purple finch from house finch. And we were talking about it at the store, and I said this. You've heard me say this. I have my rules for certain birds, and this is one of them. If you think it's a purple finch, then it's a house finch. Because when you see a purple finch, you go, "Oh, yeah, that's a purple finch." Because house finches, while the male's on the right is red where he's red and he's brown where he's brown, the purple finch looks like somebody's dunked him in raspberry Kool-Aid and picked him back out again. And so you can see it's like that purple wash or that raspberry wash over all his feathers, the back and the head feathers. And you can see that the orbital line and the malar line stripe there, it just covered in that color of that raspberry. And they're bigger, they're huskier. And then when you see them together, there's absolutely no trouble telling them. But the confusion comes in when you see a really bright house finch, male house finch. They just, it can get, and you're only seeing one, you're only seeing house finches, and you go, wow, look how bright he is. And your mind gets to thinking, could that be a purple finch? Well, like I said, you'll know it when a purple finch is there. And one of the things I use the most is the brown stripes on the flanks of the house finch. The purple finch may look like there's some stripes there, but they're very faint, and they're usually that raspberry wash over them. But the brown is brown on the house finches. And one huge clue to separating out house and purple finches are the females, because boy, the females just jump out at you. And that is the female house finch on the left is the plainest plain Jane. I mean, she is just that gray brown stripes with nothing, no real outstanding feature about her. Whereas that purple finch is much darker stripes, and it has that new real visible white malar stripe and the orbital stripe there going across the top of the head. Now, the one thing that if you really look and you got good binoculars and you look, you're also going to see the bill on the female house finch. So I'll turn my head. Their bill goes straight and then it curves down. The culmen curves down at the end, right near the face. Whereas a purple finch, their culmen is just straight. The separation between the upper and lower mandibles are straight, whereas the house finches have that downward turn to them. And that's one of the reasons why they're so good at cracking open really hard seeds. So separating them, and they're predicting this year is going to be good for purple finches in the southern mid part of the country. Even I've heard even down to the Gulf Coast, they could get purple finches this winter. So be on the lookout for them. And remember, if you think it's a purple finch, then it's probably a house finch, because you will, when you see that purple finch, you'll go, oh yeah. And the same rule with downy woodpeckers. And if you think it's a hairy, then it's a downy, because once the hairy lands on there and you go, whoa, look how big that is. Look at that big wampum bill. The house finch rule applies to that with me too. So, all right. I am going to go back and see what I've missed so far. You guys checking in over there? Yeah, all right. Okay, my birds are confused. Yeah, that's right. And and it's not unheard of. I had a customer yesterday, Sandy, that she is in very northwest Iowa, and she had a hummingbird. And it says she had hummingbirds and juncos in her yard at the same time. It happens. And warblers certainly can be straggling through. Yeah. The pigeons, yeah, they're going to. If they find it, they need water just like everybody else. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Good job. Your birds, thank you. You need that. Well, there's Taylor. Welcome in. And a flock of doves here today. Some of the regulars are nearly tame. Yeah, they know where that food source comes from. Once they hang around enough, they don't fly very far away when you're out there. Yeah, I had 3 or 4 of them out there yesterday, I think. That's right. Andrew got a signed copy of this article. Yep. And you know what? How about I do a giveaway tonight? here's what I'm gonna do. I will send you a copy of the winter sparrows article. I have a handful left, just a few. And what I want you to do is I want you to write, type in the word sparrow if you want one of the articles. And what I'll do is at the end of the night, whenever we see, and I'll count them all, and you'll all be numbered, and then I'll randomly roll as to who wins a copy of the article, and I'll get your address and we'll send it off to you. So if you want to type the word in sparrow, I know you want one of the articles, and we'll do a drawing. Juvenile juncos have some. That's right. Yeah, they do. Yeah, the young juncos are striped. They do. They look like a juvenile sparrow, which they are. Yeah. Late getting in tonight. Hello, Steve, East Tennessee. Welcome in. Hi, Brian. We're checking in from Leavenworth, just up the street here. All right. Oh, and I noticed Brian has a symbol by him. That means he's joined the group. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. The most vocal and active bird in my yard right now is the white-throated sparrows. Very nice. Absolutely, Jennifer. Yeah, they love those native seed heads. I haven't heard one yet in the yard. The Carolina Wren's been going crazy in the morning, but thank you. Yep, absolutely. Lisa, thank you for joining. I appreciate that support. All right. Nocturnal birds and creatures are used to that at night too. They absolutely do. Yeah, we've got several pictures and videos of great horns and bird bass. I have we had one of a Mississippi kite in a bird bath. We have Cooper's hawks and bird bass. We have barred owls and bird bass. Yeah, they all have to have water, and keeping out that reliable source of water is huge, even in birds of prey. Hello, Ruth Simmons. She's south of the river. So you made it home. Excellent. Yeah, she's closed the store tonight. We're supposed to get in the lower 30s. Yeah, to North Georgia. Yeah. Well, probably not. It just depends how quickly it heats up. Lower 30s are not going to freeze the water hole. You might get a crust of ice on top of your bird bath at those temperatures. And when the sun comes up, that'll melt really quickly. So that's up to you. I doubt it. When it gets, it usually gets pretty good. That temperature, it depends on how high it is up off the ground. Lower to the ground, it's going to make you get more ice. The higher it is, it may not. So it depends. And so, yeah, at least I bet you got good numbers of red-breasted nuthatches up, because I know when we went to Duluth, Minnesota in the summer a few years ago birding, my gosh, those red-breasted nuthatches were everywhere up in those big pines. We heard them constantly. Yep. Yeah, the white-breasteds. Absolutely. Okay, what am I doing? I can tell you my my clicking's not good with Melanie not here. All right, hold on. Let's get back to this. So the white-throated singing in your yard. Yep. I do. I think a lot of the native sparrows are out in the native grasses and the native field edges with eating on the wild seeds. And when it gets colder and we start getting some snow cover, we'll definitely get them in at the feeders more. Song sparrows the same way, like crowns, Harrison sparrows here in our area. We look for them when they get pushed in. My concern this year, Sandy, with a lot of the native sparrows is we are so dry that I worry that when they come down in the fall and they get here and they're out there feeding, with it being as dry as it is, some of them, or a lot of them, may actually move on further south looking for areas with more natural water. But as dry as it is now, that's just a theory and a fear, but I hope we have them all winter. We love my native sparrows. We had a barred owl in our pond. That's right. You did. Yeah. Kurt sent that video of that. That's awesome. My poor juncos have to compete with those. Yes, that's right. They are. The house sparrows are everywhere. I hate it. And your loudest bird's the chickadees. Okay, mine's the Carolina Wren. He blares me out. Illinois finally heard about it. Yeah, that's right. They are. Absolutely, it's right on time. They're usually pretty close together. The white-throats and the juncos. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it just depends on your environment. I mean, I know somebody bought a heated bird bath down in Texas just recently, and I thought, hey, you seem pretty far south, and I don't. But I mean, it's a great bird bath, and it will definitely when you do have those cold snaps, it'll definitely keep it open for sure. But it just depends on where you are, and you know your locale better than I do as to how many freezing temperature nights you have and things like that. But it's the source of water that's important. That's for sure. Mexican sunflower pan. That's awesome. That is a great offering for them. Yeah, yeah, the barred owl. Oh, by the way, with the barred owl, that's good. That we're going to get moving on. So I add this right there. Okay, hold on. The I did throw that up already, but what I want to think, what I'm trying to transition here, folks. Sorry, is that the this is a great time of year. Barred owls are not quite that active yet, but they're still out there, of course, and feeding and eating and everything. But they're not into their nesting season yet. But great horned owls are, and this is the best time of the year to ride around at dusk and just look at power poles as you're driving, and look for one with horns because those great horns this time of year at dusk, and of course it gets darker earlier now, and but they'll sit at the top of those power poles, and you just ride around and just be alert because they blend in with that power pole. But this is a great time of year to spot great horned owls, no doubt about it. And they're already calling. They're starting to call for mates, and they're going to get really vocal. I call them the 4 o'clock birds, meaning the morning. They sing a lot late in the night, but they can be heard, pretty much anytime during the night. And this time of year, if you're a light sleeper, you might get awakened by them because they are pretty active with that, or with their singing, because their mating season is starting. So let's see. Yep, we did that. Okay. We hit the sunflower pretty hard lately too. Yeah. They're storing that some of that sunflower and peanuts. They'll store that. And the titmice, of course, with the end shell peanuts are definitely doing that too. So some of this trim for now. How quickly the birds have found. Absolutely. A handful. Yes, so that is a great approach. And they have to have escape cover, or they're just easy pickings for a lot of predators. Cooper's hawks, sharp-shinned hawks, and believe me, house cats. You be careful of those and keep them out. But yeah, those brush piles are really important around bird feeders. Like I said, it's like lions at the water hole. Predators know when they see a concentration of animals, just like the wildebeest at the water hole and the lions go there. Well, bird feeders are that too. That's why that escape cover is so important when as a part of your bird feeding for your birds to be able to be safer at. So, all right. Send a picture of a flock of birds at her video today, asking what they were. Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, say, this is the time of year we see those huge flocks of grackle settle in, but usually they're only around a bird feeder for a few days. If it usually only one or two, and then they move on, and they're making their way south to the Gulf Coast states for the winter. But yeah, those huge flocks of grackle, you see them on the power lines as well, and there'll be brown-headed cowbirds mixed in with them, the starlings mixed with them, some redwings mixed in them. But yeah, I've had them descend on my yard, in my old yard, and just be covering everywhere. But next thing you know, they're gone. They don't really harass the feeders that I find very long. Not really. I mean, they'll find that water wherever it is, and I don't like them too close to my bird feeders, especially if you feed seed with holes like sunflowers, because they drift and they gather and they mess up the bird bath. Mine is on my deck, but it's away from the wind, and so I don't get that many holes in mine because it's on the deck railing. The feeders are hanging over the deck railing, but I where should I place my bird feeder? Where should I place my bird bath? Where you can see them, where you'll get the most enjoyment. That is my message. So yes, they take into account for the escape cover. A lot of times you put a bird bath out in the middle of wide open, they're not going to use it very much because they're vulnerable out there. So the closer you can get feeders and bird baths to cover. The safer they'll feel, and they're more likely, and the quicker they'll use it. Big Hornell is calling every morning at 4 a.m. That's exactly right. I'm telling you, I always call them the 4 o'clock birds, man. That time of when I get up to do bird surveys and I know I'm up early. Yep, I pretty much always hear them, and they are everywhere. Have to take my feeder tonight. Yep, absolutely. That's one of the ways, you just have to, if you have to feed from your deck and places like that, taking your bird feeders in at night is a very wise thing to do when you got raccoons. Solar noise alarms to keep raccoons out of fruit trees. Interesting. So that noise alarm. Excellent. All right, let's move. My next, the owls, the great horned owl and the barred owl, leads me to my next slide. I am discombobulated tonight, guys. Sorry. There it is. All right. Every bird in this picture is anybody want to comment? All those birds are the same species. Come on. Somebody's going to comment here. These are all red-tailed hawks. Every one of these. This is an eastern form of the red-tailed hawk, which is the most prominent form we see color-wise in the eastern 2/3 of the United States. Now, this one in the center on the top is the western form of a red-tailed hawk, the real rufous breast. We see these here in winter, out here in Kansas City, north meets south and east meets west. So we get to see all of these birds that were taken in pictures in the Kansas City area. And it's a lesson in why hawks, and especially red tails, are not easy identifications. A lot of people, a snake snap calls on them, and I tell the story when I first moved here from North Carolina, and I'd be riding down the road and I'd go, holy mackerel, and I'd pull over and think, oh, it's a red tail. And I'd go around and be birding, oh, that's one, and to pull over, oh, it's another red tail. And here we get the very dark birds, very light birds, and of course, then you got this bird on the western birds, the eastern birds. This bird on the upper right is an immature bird. The stripes in the tail tell us it's an immature bird, but it's a red-tailed hawk. This bird in the lower left is a leucistic red-tailed hawk, and we see them, every so often. The birds, whenever you got a genetic condition like leucism or albinism or melanism, they're going to show up in birds that are more common. And so we do see leucistic red-tails from time to time. They most often get reported as snowy owls because people see this big bird, this almost all white, sitting up, and they'll call it in or report it, and we'll go check it out, and it'll be a leucistic red tail. They're not albinos. These guys aren't, although they can be albino. We have to check that too. And then this bird here in the middle at the bottom, see how dark it is? That is what's known as a Harlan's red-tailed hawk, which is the dark subspecies of it. And now I'm not going to try to get into all the fine tunes of being able to separate them out. The message here is just know that red tails will fool you. All different kind of colorations. The one on the right is known as a Kreider's red-tailed hawk, and it's almost all white. Very white belly, very white on the head. The tail that has a pinkish hue to it. But we see those too. And a lot of these birds have kind of specific nesting ranges, but in the winter they come down into the plains and spread out, and they're all mixed in all together. So when we were doing hawk surveys a few years ago, I set up the route here in Kansas City, and we ran it for 3 or 4 years in a row. But when we were you're riding down the road at 50 miles an hour, and you're trying to identify hawks, it gets tricky. But you just have to know. You have to be willing to get your mind around that. Wow, that's really dark, or wow, that's a really light, but it's the size of a red tail, and it's where a red tail usually sits here all the time. You have to get better looks at it. But no, when I do my hawk program for Audubon and different groups, training classes and things like that, and I will say, The rule of thumb is if you're riding down the road and you see a large hawk sitting in a tree or if you say it's a red tail, you're 95% of the time you're going to be right. I mean, we do get rough leggeds here in winter, and of course, in some of the other smaller hawks, red shoulders, or more, crow size or much smaller than red tails, things like that. But just know any large hawk, through most of our range. Now, I know you guys live in different parts of the country, but here, especially in the heart of the country, when you see a large hawk sitting out in the open in the winter, it's usually a red tail in one of these many color forms. All right. Let me see. No, Taylor was next. Red poles, yes, absolutely. They are predicting that we get some down this far, and that's excellent. You got to get visual confirmation because those finch chips and things can confuse a lot of the programs, but you can get visual confirmation of them. They do occur. Ruth had them in her yard many times down in Lee Summit. It's been a few years now, and I know Dave Tanner comes on our bird hikes. He had one at his feeders a couple of years ago over Weatherby Lake, and they do come in. And red poles are more common north of us, just north of us, like in St. Joe. They get more sightings than we do down here. So yeah, keep your eyes open for red poles. That's for sure. Can you program that only work at night? Is that the haiku box, or what do you think? Oh, the bird bath, de-icers. That's interesting. Now, they work on a thermostat and they go on and off at 35 or 36 degrees. So they're not going to run whenever it's warm. But they'll come on when the temperature drops below there. That's how they work. Thrush? Nope. We got it. Hawk? Yes. Raptor? Yes. I like it. Yes. Red tail. Many red tails. Ruth and I have. Yes, Teresa. Yep. Absolutely. Good job. One looks like a chicken. I hope they didn't hear you say that. What? Yes, absolutely, Sandy. That is it. Once when you get into studying raptors and really learn it, you realize hawks are one of the hardest groups of birds to separate out. They really, really are. Waiting approval. I don't know what that means, Kurt. Cooper versus Sharpshin stumped me a lot. Yes, they do. Yeah, and I thought about trying to cover that tonight, but I thought, well, let's do red tail tonight, and maybe we'll do Cooper Sharpies next month. All right. A lot of hawks in the Chicagoland. Yes. Yeah. You guys, the major raptor migration south, they ease their way south. They follow, to get pushed by weather, and they know snow cover is going to cover a lot of their prey. So they come down, and usually for Kansas City right here, when I did my hawk surveys, December was our highest month for raptors. And we had tons of them. And March was very, very low for us. And that's because they got pushed, December, January, February, March, and then they start working their way back up. So our raptor line here in the next month are really picking up. I've already seen several, but they're going to really pick up. It's a great time to go out looking for raptors. Okay, maybe I can spot one. Yes, definitely, Taylor. Yeah, you get pictures, please. Yeah, Ruth, I know. Ruth, don't you usually when you see red poles, they don't usually get in till like December, January, maybe January, whenever you see them in Lee Summit down there in the past. I think that's your most common month. Ruth literally has more red pole sightings in her yard than she does purple finch sightings, which is incredibly crazy here for the Kansas City region. So, yeah, she's got some kind of favorable trees and seed sources for them, that's for sure. All right. Let's go. All right. So my creature feature for the night is this guy right here. Anyone want to guess? Anyone tell me what that is? Going to travel with the Siskins. Yes, late December. Yep, absolutely. This bird has many, many nicknames, and this is a great time of year to see them in area lakes in the Kansas City region. I assume across much of the United States. They're very widespread, very common along the coast in North Carolina growing up, and also the coast and the West Coast and the Great Lake. they're very numerous bird. This is a double-crested cormorant, and the one of the reasons I wanted to cover this is because if you're going about bird watching this time of year, especially around any the deep water lakes, now not real shallow wetlands, they are incredible divers, so they're going to be around your the deep lakes. The double-crested cormorant is a bird you need to learn, and they're fascinating. They you guys have, if you've watched nature specials and things, and we're watching the one where they're in like the Philippines or over there, and the people have these birds they fish with, and they put a little ring around their neck and a rope, and they send them in the water, and they go down and they catch a fish, and they bring it back up, and they make the fish. I mean, the bird regurgitate it, and they get the fish out of there. That's cormorants, not double crested over there, but they cormorants. They're incredible fish catchers, and their bill, where most birds' bills are flat and smooth, these birds have serrated edges. They're serrated edges of their bills for catching and holding on to slippery fish, and they're great fish catchers, and fishermen hate them. Because they claim they're eating all their fish, which is ridiculous. But they have to eat, and they catch fish. They're great divers, and some people confuse them when they're sitting in the water for loons, because their posture is very similar to loons in the water. But cormorants sit with their bill tipped up in the air. They kind of have it up, and that's a good clue to when you're looking for them. And the reason I threw this upper right picture is because we occasionally get during the migration times of year, we also get this little guy on the right, which is a neotropic cormorant. Now, you guys to the south and all the southern tier states, especially Texas and some of those Gulf Coast states, you get neotropics much more commonly down there. But you can see the size difference. And so when you're looking at a group of double-crested cormorants, so you see this little guy sitting there with them, then you need to take a closer look, because it probably is a little neotropic cormorant. And they have very unique flight profiles. They all kind of look like flying crosses with their wings. And you see them sitting up in trees with their wings kind of like vultures, drying out in the sun, because they spend a lot of time in the water, so they have to dry out their torque. The double-crested cormorant is a great bird, and they're really widespread. So if you go and you see this kind of a good size, not as big as a Canada goose or anything like that, but a larger blackbirds flying around like this, and they love to sit up in dead timber and around in trees and groups of them, and you hopefully you'll be able to identify it as a double-crested cormorant. So just thought that's I always try to do a creature feature, and that's the one I chose for tonight. And let's see. Let's go now. We're getting to all the question and answers. That's all the slides I had tonight, and kind of the topics I thought we'd hit on, and then take questions the rest of the night. So, all right, let me go here. Yep, Bruce said that the red pole's usually late December when the pine siskins. So we're supposed to see some pine siskins this year, but I don't know a huge invasion of them. Looking at good quality heated bass for Michigan winter. Saw one at a store that's 150 watts. Not sure if that's good enough. Believe me, it is. Those bird bass, the one that I use, and the one that's on the online store, is guaranteed to 20 below zero. Now, I don't know. Do you regularly get below 20 below zero? If you do, then you may have to go with a higher watt. What happens with the donut types that we showed earlier is when it gets really, really cold, it only keeps right around that donut open. So you have a very small patch of open water, because it can't keep that larger one up. They're just miniature cattle trough de-icers. Waters they keep in there to keep water open for the cattle. So it says its name on, yeah, I do. When I asked that, I wasn't looking out there. Exactly there. And I am 80 miles south of you. I see red tails, Coopers, Sharpies, and getting some rough legged. I tell you, yeah, rough legs. It depends on the winter here, Sandy. We see them in the winter, but not as common. Those black bellied birds. I love them. I always look for them starting here in the next month. I'm riding. I'm really in some years we have lots of rough legs in our area, and they hover. You pick them out over a field, they'll be out there hovering, which is kind of cool because the red tails may canter against the wind, flying, but the rough legs actually do that full on hover like that. Oh, what did I just do? I'm on a roosting box. They'll find it out of need. Is how they'll find that roosting box. They're always looking for places to get out. They roost in thick evergreens and in clumps of leaves under your deck. I had a Carolina wren that used to roost in a bird feeder I wasn't using. I looked at one night, he was sitting in the bird feeder. Inside the feeder was bill sticking out the hole, and that's where he was roosting at night. So they'll use pretty much anything. So believe me, they're always looking. So you put it up, and I bet you they'll find it. Yeah, found it pretty quick. Chickadees and wrens are just so inquisitive. They're always checking out sites. Large flower pot on a pond where a pond inserted. The cow trough does. Yep, absolutely. That's a great heated bird bath. Yep. Domestica. We have 2 de-icers for our pond at 150 watts. It's a good sized pond. That you've got there, and that works for you. And I know you got we've got shown people that video the rusty blackbirds you had, and it was so cold. That was brutally cold, that stretch, and that we had that year, and that bird bath was keeping enough open for them to use it. Well, thank you, Ellie. Reminding everybody to hit the thumbs up. If you like the videos, please. And if you share them with your friends, it's wonderful. It helps us so much. And just like sending an idea in for the program, I definitely do that about the bird banding and stuff. We're going to do that. I'm always looking for topics. What was under me? Yeah, they do have in breeding season. They do have 2 little humps up there. It ain't much of a crest, that's for sure, Sandy. Yeah, I must have jumped. How did I jump over so many? I must have hit something crazy because all of a sudden I had to go back up. PBS had a cool program on hummingbirds. Yeah, PBS is wonderful. Absolutely, great programming. Christian's most hated bird. Yeah, when there's a concentration of them, and your bass fish, like they have in the past, we've all caught fish that have scar, especially bass that have scars on their back for where they had gotten caught, that got away from like a cormorant or something. Yeah, and there are certain really important fisheries areas in the Northeast that they have killed cormorants with governments did it to control the cormorant populations that were so high in areas where important fisheries. So, yeah, but for the most part, we don't get enough of them to make that kind of an impact here in our area for sure. I do think so. Definitely. Are you Upper Peninsula or anywhere? I mean, if you're consistently below 20 below zero, then my bets are off on that. But I bet it'd be very, very effective. But they don't fill it too full. That's the advice I give about those heated bird baths. That the whole bowl is heated. Is if you fill it all the way to the rim, that the heater is far enough away from the top of the water that it can get a crust on the top. So don't ever fill it more than like half full, or maybe a little over half full, and the bird bath, the heater will do its job. That's certain. Having that surface area of heat, it makes a big difference in keeping it open in really cold conditions. I know, Andrew. I was like, how did that happen? I must have hit a button that sent me way down or something. That's why I need Melanie here. All right. Anytime. Cedar waxwings are on the move. A lot of them have passed through. Now, remember, cedar waxwings winter anywhere from the mid-U.S. All the way down to Costa Rica. They'll winter in large swath of area, but it depends on if you've got a good berry crop in your area. You got lots of poison ivy berries. You got lots of wild grapes and woodbine, things like that. Cedar bushes, obviously. They'll settle into those kind of areas, and you really, a lot of bird watchers have their favorite cedar waxwing plots where they go out and they go and check on them every winter and starting in the fall and find them that way. Okay, you got that one. Now I got to get back down here. All right, thanks. Well, yeah, I did miss that. I didn't know about that one. I know they turn up, especially Rufus. They tend to show up in late season. Like we had one here in Kansas City, but through Thanksgiving one year, and then another one that fascinated me. I did see one of a broad-billed hummingbird, which is really uncommon up north at like Pennsylvania or somewhere, which is way away from Arizona. But I tell you, Roger Troy Peterson always said, birds have wings. So and if it's a male rufus, then they can identify it. If it's a female rufus, or they suspect it is, they pretty much have to catch it to measure it and separate it from Allen. So that's cool. And they're hummingbirds. I mean, you have Mexican violet ears showing up in Michigan and different places like that. It's crazy. They'll turn up all over. I like cormorants too. They're cool. That's right. And the wings open, kind of like the turkey vultures. Sparrow. I'm not sure of that. Our pond de-icers are actually 250 watts. Okay, you got the bigger ones. Yep. So yep. And I'm like, Michigan, depending on where you are, you guys can get some really cold winters up there. You may want to go with like a 250, or it depends on the size of the bowl you have it in. But I really think that it'll keep you, if you're guaranteed to 20 below, I bet you the majority of your nights that bird bath will be just fine. All right. Skip about these out of range birds, but I think this one, yeah. I mean, if they get it, if the photographs, I mean, that's so important. If they can photo document it, yeah, they show up. It amazes me. You ever used any of those copper large? I do, absolutely. I use them. I love them. The combination. They call them copper purification disc is what they're called, and they work great against green algae. They really do. They have made my life easier with my bird bath. Now they're not great against the brown algae if you have a problem with that. And for that enzyme that we have for the bird baths, that works really against brown algae, but not great against green algae. So a combination of the two can do really well for you. But I love my copper disc for sure. What are they trying to do? There you go. Absolutely. That is, Ruth collects Christmas ornaments, bird Christmas ornaments. Yep, the copper rings. Yep, thank you, Kurt. Yep, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, I'd like to look at it, Lisa. That'd be good. All right. I'm glad you guys are chiming in, endorsing the copper, the big copper. And I heard the bank, and now you guys may already know this as far as I'm behind, but they said the other day at the bank that there are no more pennies ever going to be made. Pennies have stopped being, because the only pennies out there are the ones that are in circulation right now, and eventually they're going to go away. That's very interesting. And copper pennies are not made of copper anymore, very, very minute amount. So entering the contest. See when Maxi's. Oh, sparrow. Okay, I see. But I got you. Thank you. I was expecting people to chime in, and nobody did. So it was a ways down there. Thank you, Carrie. Absolutely. That's what drives me. Yes, absolutely. I do. I have both. They met at the same time. I use the copper pennies there, the copper disc, because they're all year round for sure. Which one did I answer, Lauren Ball? I hope so. I'm sorry for being so disorganized. I tell you, like I said, without Melanie here, I get so messed up. Oh, that was the copper disc question. Okay. Can you toss in a piece of copper? That I don't know. I mean, part of the problem, one of the things about the disc is the surface area, and I think that helps. I don't know how much a pipe would. I guess that question I do not know. I couldn't hurt. That I know of. Thanks so much. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that support. Helps us too. To help keep seasons going. Yes. Yeah. Well, the Blue Jays, I tell you, if you give them their own source of in-shell peanuts, they'll leave the other stuff alone while they've got those in-shell peanuts. That may help you. What do you think about decorating your feeder with Christmas lights? I've never thought of that. I don't know that the birds would be concerned with that. I really don't. Yeah, that's right. They haven't been copper since 1982. That's exactly right. 11 people. Okay, I will go up. I will go up and I'll write everybody's name down after the program. I'll go write everything down. And then I'll however many I got polyhedral dice. And so however many there are, then I'll roll a dice and the one it lands on is the one who will get, and then I'll get you get your email and your information, the mailing address. Hopefully you're on the list, and I can contact you via your email and get you to send me your address so I can ship it to you. Thank you, Sandy. Like I said, it's tough without Melanie helping me here. Okay, did that. Oh, on the poll, right. It's BC. Could the bird? Yeah. I mean, it's possible. I mean, strange things happen with birds can get their toes stuck in different things, and it may increase that risk a little bit. That's a good point, Lisa. Yeah, that's true. The squirrels would really appreciate chewing the coating off those wires. First, yay! Excellent. Project Feeder Watch is underway. If you haven't signed up, still time. Help with that citizen science. All right, I got to get going, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you, Hannity. I appreciate it. It's been a little frustrating tonight. Hopefully, by the next live program, she'll be back and we'll be kind of running back smooth again. Think. Absolutely. Oh, that's right, Andrew. You got the shirt. Thank you. Wear it proudly. Mark's Bird Nerds. Yes, absolutely. Ruth's doing Feeder Watch. She has for many, many years. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You guys are always wonderful. Thank you for the kind words and thank you for tuning in and the support you give us. And you're doing your thumbs up, your likes, your share and sharing things. It all helps so much. My scrub jays never go to the feeders with peanuts. That's all they want. There you go. Yeah, I mean that's a bird we don't get over here. So yeah, that's good to know. I love those scrub jays. They're beautiful. Well, again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I've missed your question. I'm so sorry. Like I said, it was pretty tough, but hopefully next 2 weeks we'll be back running normal again. So we appreciate it. Everybody, have a wonderful evening, and as we say, until next time, let's talk birds.